Recaps here. Today I will be recapping the movie called The White Snake. Spoilers ahead, relax and enjoy. 500 years ago, there was chaos as the demons haunted the world. The emperor at that time was in hunger for eternal life. His general, willing to favor the emperor's desires, starts having people to catch snakes to feed his emperor's powers. Maids are going into the palace with food, but one of them, in disguise as a maid, immediately separates herself from the others and silently starts to kill every guards guarding the palace. She is a white snake demon called Blanca. She used her powers to try and assassinate the emperor, but is stopped by the general, who also has magical powers. He informs the other guards, who also went in pursuit for her. Blanca and the general started to exchange powers, but unfortunately, the general's powers was too strong to the extent that it suppressed her powers and was defeated. Next morning, Blanca wakes up in an unknown house and suddenly becomes nervous, not knowing where she is. She sees an old woman and is ready to defend herself, but the old woman convinces her that there is nothing to be scared about and she is safe. Blanca desperately asks the old woman where they are, and she then begins to explain that they are in a snake catcher's village. What they do in this village is to catch snakes for a living, and it was even a snake catcher that rescued her. And the reason their houses are like that is because the villagers believes that the mountains are full of wild beasts. A boy who is returning from hunting enters the village and accidentally hits Blanca. His name is Schwen. He was the one that rescued Blanca. According to the old woman, Blanca seems not to remember anything on who she was. Zahn then meets Blanca, assuring her that she shouldn't worry, for he is going to take her to where he found her so she can have a clue on who she is. While on their way, Blanca asks him the reason they hunt snakes. He replied saying that their life is getting really hard. So in order for them to survive, they must catch snakes for the emperor, who is in need of them, or they will be forced into hard labor. He shows her the waterfall on where he found her. His dog was running ahead of them and slips through the mountains immediately. Blanca unconsciously uses her powers to save the dog. Zahn is so shocked by what he just saw and wanted to know more about her. Firstly, he asks how she was able to do all of that. But she just tells him to stay behind while she goes to the mountains alone. She easily flies to the mountaintop while Zahn keeps following her until he reached the mountaintop as well. Blanca starts to get memories on her past and how she was defeated at the palace. At this moment she was really scared and unsafe. Zahn touches her to know what's wrong, but she hits him by mistake. He is falling off the mountain, but she immediately uses her powers to save him by making his umbrella to fly. Zahn was at this moment is having fun, believing he can fly. He grabbed Blanca along with him, but at a moment she was skeptical about Schwen, but as she spends time with him, she sees how fun he was. She starts to fall for him. While they were having fun, she notices a snake following them. Eventually it tries to attack Zahn, but Blanca uses her powers to save him. While they are landing, Blanca started to regain some of her memories. Due to this, she became unconscious and falls off the mountain. While the Zahn follows her to save her, in the forest he sees two guards from the palace around her, saying to themselves that they recognize her from the palace, that she was the one who tried to assassinate the emperor. One of them attempted to kill her but is hit with a stone by Zahn, and also luckily defeated the other guard. Immediately he takes her back to the village. Later on, the general and his men enters the village, ordering everyone in it to come out. He asks the village leader if he has seen an unusual woman in their village dressed in white. The village people are just trembling in fear, not even saying a word. The general is so heartless that he takes a newborn child and threatens to kill him if he doesn't get answers. The baby parents were so terrified and confesses that they saw her with Schwen in the village. He then orders his men to search the village. The next scene begins in a secret village of the snakes, who were oppressed by the general. The snake that tried to attack Zahn from earlier returned to the village and tells the snake leader that he saw Blanca with a demon hunter, and comes to conclusions, calling her a traitor. But her elder sister called Verta interrupted them. She says they shouldn't come to conclusions about her just yet, but instead, she will go and look for her and bring her back. Their leader then puts a death scale in her. If she's not back in 3 days, the scales inside of her will activate and kill her. While Blanca and Zahn are on their escape, another snake demon confronts them. He feels Blanca is a betrayal for being with a snake hunter and tried to kill them. Blanca this time around transforms to her full demonic form, using her tail to slash the other snake demon into two. Zahn sees her freezing that night. Seeing her condition, he didn't care about the kind of demon she really is, instead lights a wood on fire to warm her. The next morning Blanca felt depressed, not ready to accept that she is also a demon. But Zahn tells her that he really doesn't care what form she changes to as far as she is a good person. From this moment, their bond began to grow stronger. On the road, Blanca's sister appears and is about to take Blanca back to the village with her, but when she notices the person she was with is a snake hunter. She tried to attack him, but Blanca defended him. The two sisters got into a very epic fight, and due to the force between the two opposing powers, Blanca and Zon falls into a hidden temple underground. Here Blanca finds out who she really was and what humans really do with people of her kind. When they leave the temple, Blanca decides to separate from Zon, feeling it's not safe for them to be together, and decided to go with her sister. This disappointed Zon, but he promised her that he will find a way for the both of them to be together again. Zon meets a fox demon to help him. The fox demon tells him that in order for him to be with Blanca, he must also become a demon. Without hesitation, Zon agrees. The general catches Blanca and her sister together and tries to capture them. But the both sisters use their powers trying to defend themselves from him. After a long fight, he used his magic to trap them. Blanca is left with no option and uses her magic green wand, absolving all the general's powers. This too much powers inside of her transformed her to a giant demon form. Meanwhile, Zon is really happy when he noticed that he is now a demon, which means he can finally be with Blanca again. But when he hurriedly returns to look for her, he passes the palace to see the whole place on fire and the building are destroyed. He searches for Blanca and shockingly, he sees her as a really huge giant snake fighting the general's army. He begs her to stop and wants to know what happened, but instead she just leaves. Blanca's sister then tells him that the snakes are coming to his village for war. He must have to choose sides between the humans or the demon. Later on, Zon hurries to his village and tried to warn them concerning the war coming. The general and his army suddenly enters the village. The general used his magic to capture Zon and reveals his new demonic form for everyone to see. When they saw this, they became terrified, not believing in anything he was saying, because they feel as he no longer one of them. The general became aware of Blanca's huge giant form and allows Zon to go talk to her as his hidden strategy to capture her. When he meets Blanca, who was so furious at that moment trying to kill the general. But Zon begs her to stop that, hurting innocent lives in the process of attacking the general isn't worth it. But she wasn't listening until he reveals to her that he loves her, and he has already made himself a demon to be with her. Blanca at this was so touched by his words and was ready to be with him. Immediately the general used her distraction to capture her, same time capturing Zon and her sister. He then begins to extinguish both their body and soul to prevent them from being reborn. In the process, the snake leader appears and starts to fight the general. The both of them unleashed all their powers against each other, but the general seems to be winning the fight. Blanca then manages to break through the general's trap, freeing both Zon and her sister. Eventually, they all joined forces together to finally defeat the general. The Snake Master then immediately uses the opportunity to absolve all the general's powers, transforming her to the most powerful demon in history. She decides to go against Blanca and her sister for siding with the humans. While attacking Blanca, Zon uses the general's trap to capture the Snake Master. While he was escaping with her, the general wakes up and uses his last powers to turn everywhere into ice before he died. This cold was so extreme, but Zon still manages to take her to a hill and covers her body so she wouldn't feel the cold. Back in the village elder insisted that they should go and rescue Zon and Blanca, since they were the ones that saved their lives. When Blanca sights the villagers looking for them, she tries to inform Zon, but unfortunately, his whole body was turned into ice due to the massive cold. Blanca sees this and cries really bad. The ice destroys his body, but Blanca manages to use all her last strength to save Zon's soul. 500 years later, the both of them now remembers their past stories, and Blanca remembers her relationship with Zon. She then goes into the world to look for Zon reincarnation so they can both be together again. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love this video, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching more of this content. Bye.